He fires, and it is caught for a touchdown. It's gone! And Giroux's got it!
And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this late June edition of the Tyler Werner Show, right here on Kutztown Radio, talking Philadelphia sports. Which, in recent weeks we haven't had much, Philadelphia sports to talk about, other than the very, up and down Phillies, which, definitely continues to be a bit of a mystery as far as Philadelphia sports goes. Of course, last week, in a series against the Atlanta Braves, the Phillies dominate the Braves, sweep the series, win each game easily, no troubles whatsoever. And then they have a tough, after that series, they have a tough test against the St. Louis Cardinals at St. Louis on this, this big road trip that they have. St. Louis Cardinals obviously a contender. And the Phillies come out strong. They win the first couple of games, pretty easily again. No troubles hitting or whatnot. And then so then all of a sudden, maybe the fan base is thinking, all right, they're turning it around. And then since then, they lost 3 straight. Saturday, Sunday. They lose against the Cardinals. They get brought back down to earth a little bit more. So they split that 4-game series with the St. Louis Cardinals. And yesterday, things, against the Miami Marlins, things weren't off to a promising start as they get shut out 4-0 yesterday. So, you talk about, question marks with the Philadelphia Phillies, and it's a team full of question marks, I think, hoping that a lot is going to go right, and I think they had a winning stretch of 5 games there. They sweep the Braves last week, and they win the first 2 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, and things are looking good. But I guess then again with the Philadelphia Phillies, the law of averages evens itself out, I guess. And it's a matter of how many question marks, which way they go sometimes with the Phillies, because when it all comes down to it, they're just they're not going to go on some major winning streak that's going to turn this season around. That they're not going to they're in a weak division, or a pretty open division, that if things did go right for them, they'd be able to maybe step in there and perhaps win down the road. I'm not counting on that happening. I'm not saying that I'm making a prediction that it will, but even if they did, I don't see, I don't really see anybody in the NL East being a perennial contender, World Series contender this year, anyways. So, it is what it is. So, that's where we're at with the Phillies. A 5-game winning streak last week out of nowhere, when they were having trouble even putting 3 straight wins together up until that point in the season. And even late last season, it was September since they had last come together with a 3-game winning streak. And but it is what it is. They put 5 together, and then as of the last 3 games, it's kind of back to the the Phillies that we've been more familiar with this season thus far. And here they sit 34-41 in the NL East. So that's where we're at right now with the Philadelphia Phillies. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, good thing is we have some new things with the Philadelphia sports world going on, other than the Philadelphia Phillies. And right now, especially, that is the NBA draft coming up in just a couple of days here this week. Obviously, a big draft for the 76ers. Obviously, we had the draft lottery about a month or so ago, or more than a month, however long ago it was, where the Sixers ended up with the 3rd pick and the 10th pick in the NBA draft. You can't complain too much about that, obviously. But the interesting thing is that obviously, you got all these mock drafts floating around with the NBA, and I got one we'll talk about, especially. Third, what is projected to be the third pick, or what is, been widely regarded as the projected third pick, center Joel Embiid, which, it's been projected that the Sixers would be taking Joel Embiid. And, with the news late last week, he he has this foot injury and this and that. It's turned some people away from the guy. Can he stay healthy? And, a lot of people think, no, you know what? They should play it safer and maybe get a guy like, point guard Dante Exum, the Australian, and this and that. And I think it's a little bit. I think people are taking this foot injury with Joel Embiid and these other potential minor injuries or whatever. I think they're taking them a little too serious. A foot injury. He can bounce back from that, obviously. But as far as Joel Embiid and what he can bring to the team, a 7-footer. What the Sixers need, really, and what you see other teams have that are competing for NBA championships is they have some kind of an edge. They have, kinds of players that other teams don't have. That other teams have to game plan for, and this and that. And the skilled player that Joel Embiid is, the skilled 7-footer. He could. I could definitely see him being a guy that could give a team like the Sixers that kind of edge they need. And I think you go below that in the draft. You take Dante Exum, or some people say Noah Vonleh from Indiana. I think below that, you got some players that might make a marginal difference. But decent players, obviously, that can help contribute to the team, but nothing, that on its own is going to, make really turn a team around. Decent players, but they're not going to make a huge game-breaking difference. And I think ultimately that's what the Sixers really need in this draft, or in the drafts coming up. The next couple of years, because the Sixers, they're not supposed to win anything next year. This is a building process, until they maybe become an NBA championship contender. This is a 3, 4, 5 year process, building process here. And they just came off a season where they're essentially tanking for one of these high draft lottery picks. And, so a lot of people, they're getting afraid, you take Joel Embiid and, he might not even play for you and this and that. And, the way I look at it is, you take the risk. And look what they did with Nerlens Noel. And, eventually, you're going to, with these high draft picks, you get a guy that, you're going to maybe find one of these game-breaking pieces that you need, and maybe multiple game-breaking pieces. And I don't think that the Sixers have anything to lose here, really, taking Joel Embiid. Because, again, Andrew Wiggins probably be swept up, obviously, first pick. Jabari Parker, another one of, in these top, these big three players here, probably off the board, obviously. And then you come to the Sixers and, you got Joel Embiid left on the board. But then after that, again, it's, a lot of decent players, but nobody that's the other teams are going to have to game plan for, I think, really. And that, that are going to be a nightmare for other teams to defend and play against. So, I just say, take Joel Embiid, and I think if the Sixers do, Sam Hinkie, so far with the Sixers, it seems like he's been batting 1,000 with how, they're trying to do this rebuilding process here. And, And I mean, people are dubbing it, Noel and Joel and the Sixers. They could be a big pair, a big pair to be reckoned with. But I mean, even if one of them doesn't pan out completely, I mean, that they still, one of these guys are gonna really pan out for the Sixers, I think, and if they do indeed take Joel Embiid. It's also been rumored that maybe they try to make a trade. They try to trade like Michael Carter Williams up in to get Andrew Wiggins at pick 1, and I don't know. I mean, that's trading the NBA Rookie of the Year. You got to hopefully they make sure that if they were going to trade up, either to Milwaukee or Cleveland, that they're going to get back what they're giving up there, Rookie of the Year Michael Carter Williams. But I find it pretty interesting, this mock draft that I have up from USA Today. It's actually titled the Common Sense 2014 NBA Draft. I kind of like the name there. But USA Today, and they have obviously Andrew Wiggins taken by Cleveland Cavaliers at number 1. They have the Milwaukee Bucks taking Jabari Parker at number 2, and they have the Sixers taking Joel Embiid, the center, at number 3. Now it says here that there's talk that the 76ers are the biggest losers in the Embiid news. Obviously because they got the 3rd pick here out of these. This big 3 of players, I guess, if you want to call them, this trio of players here. As a 3-star draft becomes a 2-star draft, but now they have a chance to draft the player with the most upside at number 3, pairing Embiid and Nerlens Noel, as I kind of mentioned earlier. It could be an injury nightmare, but they could also form an indomitable defensive post pairing, and that's the point I'm trying to make here. I mean, why is everyone thinking so down on this? Like, the Sixers are still at the early phase of a rebuilding stage here in the franchise, and I think you take the risk here either way, and something really good could come out of it. And if not, I mean, next year they could, again, another draft next year, they could have a high pick. And, until they get these players that they need, these game-breaking players that they need. Because if you get a bunch of marginal players and this and that, they may never become an NBA championship team. They could be a decent team, a playoff team, but nothing that's going to get them an NBA championship. I think to become an NBA championship team, you're going to have an edge on the other teams. Have something that average teams or even decent teams just don't have. That's where this whole draft comes in. This 3rd pick in the NBA draft this year comes in, because at 10. Pick number 10 that the Sixers also have. They're they'll get a decent player out of it. That can make a marginable contribution. But all the game breaking players in this draft. Obviously they're going to be taken well before that. So that's what I'm looking at here, really. And we'll go through We'll go through more of this mock draft here, this NBA mock draft, coming up a little later in the show, because we also have Flyers news, coming out of this past week, this past weekend. Obviously, the big Flyers news is that Scott Hartnell was traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a former Flyer, R.J. Umberger. And a 4th-round draft pick, for what it's worth, a 4th-round draft pick in the 2015 NHL draft. And we actually got some of the phone, some audio for the phone call of R.J. Umberger that we could take a little listen to later on the show as well. And I think what I wanted to mention last week regarding the Flyers and forgot to is that Kimmo Timonen, who's I think is turning 40 this summer or sometime this year. He was debating retirement, contemplating coming back another year, but he signed a 1-year extension with the Flyers, and will be back on the Flyers defense, which is something I've been pointing out. Definitely needs improvement. For this team to be a contender, one of the areas that the team needs improvement on. So obviously that brings in some more discussion there with the Flyers, throughout this offseason. We'll get to more things on the show. 610-683-4859, or you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, and post any thoughts or questions on that, on the discussion post, the post I made minutes ago, and
Give me some good questions.
we'll discuss debate questions on there as always. So with that in mind, it is the Tyler Werner Show, and it is right here on Kutztown Radio.
Kathy Ireland for the Will Rogers Institute.
Are you worried that your kids aren't spending enough time being physically active? The best fitness is family activity. Ride bikes, play soccer, or just take a walk through the neighborhood. The important thing is to get your children moving with you. For more information on family activities and fitness, call the Will Rogers Institute.
Call toll-free 877-957-7575 or visit wrinstitute.org and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you looking ahead?
This is the 5th grade class at Lowers Park Elementary, and you're listening to KUR.
Cap-
321 right here on the Tyler Werner Show, right here on Kutztown Radio, Philadelphia Sports Talk. We got plenty of it to talk about today. NBA mock drafts, Flyers off-season moves, Phillies up and down, 5-game winning streak, and then right now they're riding a 3-game losing streak as they continue their series with the Miami Marlins. I don't know what, it is what it is, but, and of course we have, I've been looking at the NFL Network top 100 players of 2014 for the upcoming season, and there's going to be some interesting talk on that as well coming up later on the show. As I think there are a couple. I guess I want to call outrageous choices, I guess you could say, for the positions in this top 100. So we'll get to that later on in the show as well. Yeah. But it was an interesting weekend. This past obviously, if you've been hearing on the station, there's been advertisements for the I guess this boxing event coming up this Saturday at the Santander Arena, or the Santander Arena, as some would say. Every time, I keep wanting to say Sovereign Center because that's what I've been used to calling it, and that's always what comes to my mind, as well as the minds of my other friends that go with me to see events there at the Sovereign Center, and notably wrestling events. Actually, this past Saturday, I don't know if anybody was out there, but sometimes I'm surprised who I see at these live events at what is now called the Santander Arena in Reading. You see just people I work with even sometimes there, and but they had for what it's worth, they had one of their live events at the Santander Arena this past Saturday, and went with my friends that I normally see see these events with, and Batman Wayne, one of the regular listeners to this show and commenters. Yes, he this was his first live event that he saw, and we went there together with the people that I always see it with. He's been a big wrestling fan, and I never even mentioned how Batman Wayne, that I call him on the show. He got this nickname. We're at this a few months ago in March. We're at this bubble hockey tournament over in Gilbertsville, north of Pottstown, and we actually graduated in the same high school class. We live in the same area, and the people that we went to see this wrestling show with, we all live within a few mile radius of each other, out kind of out in the middle of nowhere near Maple Grove Raceway, towards the bottom of the Berks County, if anybody knows where I'm talking about. But just so every time I say this on the show, Batman Wayne. We're at this bubble hockey tournament a couple months ago, or back in March, I guess now it was, and there's some like really good players there. It was for the 97.5 FM Philadelphia sports radio station. They do a tournament, and they go around different areas here in the Delaware Valley, and we had to like fill out this little card or whatever and put it in like a drawing box, or they just randomly picked people, and we had to put our first name on it, and then I guess something that we were wearing. I think I was wearing a Flyers hat that night, so I put Flyers hat, and Tyler is, so the way to identify people, and here Batman Wayne was wearing one of his Batman t-shirts that night, I guess, and so that he put Batman, and then he put Wayne, and they called him Batman Wayne when they picked him to play somebody. So that that's kind of how that whole nickname came in. On this show, every time Batman Wayne checks in, that's why we call him Batman Wayne. So yeah, we saw this wrestling event, and it's always interesting to see when they have like new star, a new rising star that they might build the company around to some extent. And I find it interesting this for those who don't watch wrestling, there's this guy who was actually he was a pretty good college football player, and he actually had a short stint in the NFL. I think he played for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Vikings, but I think he got cut in like off season or training camp or something. So nothing major in the NFL that he accomplished, but nevertheless he goes by the ring name Roman Reigns, and he's part of this big Samoan family of wrestling, which includes Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for those who obviously a big Hollywood star nowadays, and one of the biggest wrestlers of all time from the the late 90s and the early 2000s, who has a very successful Hollywood career for the past decade. So it's kind of related to him, and he's related to many others within this Samoan family. Roman Reigns, he's half Italian, half Samoan. So it's interesting to see when these new stars live in person. As they're these rising stars, as they could potentially become focal points of the company. So had an interesting show there. I don't know. Again, I don't know who was there to see it. If there's anyone out there that saw it, listening, maybe check in on your thoughts on the show. It's entertainment, scripted entertainment, I guess. It was fun. It was funny. The first to begin the show, there's this guy who's he's like a hardcore. I don't know what you want to. He's anti-illegal immigrant kind of guy, and he has like a southern accent. He's the manager of this wrestler named Jack Swagger, and he's obviously a villain, and he always talks against the crowd, and he intentionally mentioned that we're here in Scranton. Why do we have to come here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and 3-4 hours north of Reading, and kind of to get the crowd against him, and and then he like intentionally mispronounces it, Reading, Pennsylvania, and this and that, get the crowd laughing, and that's what the bad guys do, I guess. So it was a fun event. So just thought I'd mention that. But as we get back to the sports talk here, again, I mean, I mentioned about the Sixers draft earlier in the show. This mock draft, the common sense 2014 NBA mock draft, as the author calls it. And I guess I'd say it is pretty accurate. Given that the Sixers take Joel Embiid at 3, which I think that's the most likely scenario. I don't think they're going to be too afraid of this foot injury and this and that. I mean, you got a 7-foot beast that can be that's a very skilled player, can be a very skilled player in this league that can be something that other teams have to game plan against you. I think that's the route you got to go. I mean, because after that pick at number 3, I mean, all right, Orlando Magic at pick number 4, they take Dante Exum, the Australian. The rationale, Exum could end up being drafted first overall, and the hype around him has grown by leaps and bounds this year. He's no man of mystery. NBA scouts have been watching Exum for years in Australia. But, I mean, not to put down, an entire country, but, I mean, that's not in the NCAA here in the U.S. I don't know. It's different. Obviously, different talent that you're playing against there, obviously. So, I mean, we'll see. But nevertheless, I mean, number 5, the Utah Jazz. The mock draft says now Noah Vonleh. No surprise there, I guess. I wouldn't say he should go any higher than that either. Number 6, Boston Celtics. They take power forward Julius Randle. A lot of these names, kind of fall in where you would think they would. Number 7, Los Angeles Lakers, taking Marcus Smart, Oklahoma State. Of course, he had that, that incident that was talked about, in detail on this show, several months ago, early on, and I don't know, maybe the second show I ever did here on Kutztown Radio. But hopefully hopefully that issue, I mean, hopefully he can grow up a little bit from that bad scene that happened with the fan, the fan, and just letting the fan get the better of him, I guess you could say. But nevertheless, I mean, might be taken at number 7 by the Los Angeles Lakers. And then at 8, the Sacramento Kings taking up Aaron Gordon out of Arizona. Number 9, the Charlotte Hornets, now taking shooting guard Gary Harris. And then at number 10, the Sixers' second player here of the draft, shooting guard / point guard Zach LaVine. Now the rationale here is no one has helped his stock more than LaVine in the past 2 months of workouts. His vertical leap is ridiculous, and he can shoot well. He didn't produce much of anything in 1 year with the Bruins, but the 76ers are all about risk-taking under Sam Hinkie. And that, again, that goes back to risk-taking here with number 3, Joel Embiid. And LaVine has superstar upside and could be off the board by this pick. And yeah, I mean, I'd have to, I'd have to agree with that. And again, risk-taking, before I even I didn't even read this until I didn't even read this earlier until now, and there you go, the risk taking under Sam Hinkie. I mentioned that earlier, and risk, high risk, high reward. I think really, but then again, I mean, the Sixers. I mean, they don't have too much to lose. I mean, they're coming off a minus 20 win season here. early in this rebuilding process. I just say you take Joel Embiid. That's the bottom line with that, really. And I think that's what the Sixers will do. And at number 10, I think decent pick. They get Zach LaVine out of UCLA, and I think that's a successful first round of the draft. And I guess only time will tell as to whether Embiid stays, can really stay healthy or not. But then again, the upside. Another key word there is really what I'm looking at here with Joel Embiid, and I'm not all worried about what if he doesn't pan out and he can't stay healthy, and not too concerned about that. This is a rebuilding process with the Sixers, so that's that. And I mentioned earlier about the Flyers, Scott Hartnell. Getting traded away to the Blue Jackets for R.J. Umberger and a 4th round draft pick in next year's draft. That's not a big, who cares about the 4th round draft pick really, honestly, right now. But R.J. Umberger, a former Flyer. I've heard, last night actually I was at one of my roller hockey games. I kind of, one of my years ago, I played roller hockey at Skateaway and down in Sinking Spring, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. And one of my former goaltender friends, said, "Hey, you should play again." And so yeah, I decided to play, get in the league this summer, and I hadn't roller skated really in like 10 years, since that time, but. So I kind of resurrected roller skates essentially, and and that whole thing. But anyways, before I get off topic again, last week, or last night, I should say, I'm hearing people talk about this trade. And they didn't like the trade that Scott Hartnell, and I think there's a lot of fans that don't like this trade. Assistant captain and this and that, but. Being I think the objective, I guess Flyer analyzer / fan that I am, not being too caught up in the whole Flyer mentality, I guess. I don't have a problem with this trade. In fact, I kind of agree with this trade. You look at the production that, Hartnell had it down. He's 32 now. Going on 33, and I think he saw a decline in his production the past couple of years, and his not the greatest skater, and not the most disciplined player either. I liked Scott Hartnell on the Flyers, and he's been a staple the past several years, but I think the timing was pretty good here for the he was set to be paid pretty well, I think, and I just R.J. Umberger. He's not a great player, but he's more disciplined, I think, and he's a better skater. I guess he's younger than Scott Hartnell as well, so there might be more upside here. Whereas Hartnell, he's kind of over the hill now, and he's shown a decline in production, and at times a lack of discipline. And 4th round pick. It is what it is. I don't care about that really, but and also clearing up some cap space here. People got to understand. This is a business as well, and you don't want to be paying a guy. A lot of your cap space to be moved, only to have him move to the third line at times, and this and that. So I think it was good timing for them to clear this, up some of this cap space. So that's that really as far as how I look at it with this trade, and I don't have too much of a problem with it. It might not really make them any better of a team. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to really factor that in, but Umberger's a cleaner player. He's not going to get as many penalties, and he's a better skater. And Hartnell's, there's not too much upside really with Hartnell, but with Umberger there might be some. So that's the way I look at that. 610-683-4859 is the number to get in, and also, as always, check in on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. We will come back on the other side, talking a little more, sports, the NFL Top 100 a little bit, and also the comeback of Tiger Woods
Yesterday I did pull out.
This past week. Tiger Woods, I guess, pulled his way back into the golf world a little bit with a speedy recovery from his back issues. So, with that in mind, this is the Tyler Werner Show, and it's right here on Kutztown Radio.
Are you looking to have your very own radio show? Do you like music or talking? Come join Kutztown University's very own radio club. We meet every Tuesday from 11 to 12, and we offer a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We hope to see you next semester.
Kutztown University's Department of Information Technology recently launched MyKU Mobile, which can be accessed at mykumobile.kutztown.edu. MyKU Mobile provides a quick way for students to view grades, financial aid information, announcements, and schedules, all from your phone. The new site also integrates with social networking sites, enabling students to post their schedules on Twitter and Facebook without ever having to use a computer. Make sure to visit myku.kutztown.edu for the best way to view MyKU on your phone.
3:40 right here on the Tyler Werner Show, and I come back with this show with this song because it's I didn't even tease this earlier in the show, but it's another edition of Summer Stories that I wanted to bring in to the show this week. After last week, just got caught up too much in whatever the sports talk that we had to talk about. So but. Summer Stories returns this week on the Tyler Werner Show, and really, I mean, these stories may not have anything to do with sports, but nevertheless, I mean, next summer I won't be, I'll be interning by the looks of it. So this is, a little chance on the show to kind of, break out a little bit and talk about, what's going on over the summer, and you can always share any of your little stories like this over the summer to bring to the show, and again, just a way to branch out to maybe people who aren't into sports as much, may just happen to turn on the radio to Kutztown Radio. So as I mentioned before on this show, and I work at Red Lobster, and help fund my college tuition and this and that, and the stories working in the restaurant business, I mean, you're never short of them. But for me in particular, this is funny because I've had many long hair stories that have come up. I've told a few on this show already, but coincidentally, I have another long hair story, me having long hair, that has to do with Red Lobster, that happened at Red Lobster. It's actually been a recurring story in a sense, the past month or so. I mean, by coincidence, I don't know, but it goes like about a month ago. It goes like this. I was, I'm in the bathroom washing my hands. Like everyone should, and I would hope they would.
I agree.
Now, the way, I have my back turned to a rather, elderly man who's walking into the rest. I mean, he's kind of got that, he's shuffling his feet kind of thing, against the floor, Now, the way that it's laid out, I mean, my back is to him when he makes the left to come into the restroom. And, so I see him coming in the mirror, my back's to him, and and he says, "Uh-oh, wrong one, I guess." And so he turned. I guess by saying that, I mean he thinks he walked into the ladies' room when on the door. I mean, it clearly says gentlemen, and next to it there's a sign that says men. It has the I guess the default symbol of not stick figure, but whatever you want to call it, and men, and the braille that you put your finger against if you're blind to tell you it's the men's room. But I guess this guy sees me from behind. He sees the long hair, and he thinks that he mistakenly walked in to the ladies' room. So I turn around, as he's turning around, he's starting to exit he's on his way to the door. I say no, this is the right one. I'm trying not to laugh as I'm saying this, but he says, "Oh, okay." So he proceeds back into the restroom, and if you think about it, I definitely I may have potentially saved quite a scene here, because I mean he was on his way out the door. I mean, what if he really would have walked into the ladies' restroom? I mean, could you imagine what could have happened? I don't know. That could have been a big scene in itself. So I kind of saved I saved the guy here in a situation. And as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, also it kind of happened again last week with another relatively older guy. I mean, I guess these people, some people, they're not up there in age. I guess they're not as used to seeing men with long hair, even though it's not a very uncommon thing anymore. But nevertheless, another guy about last week, mistakenly thought the same thing. It was like deja vu. It's kind of one of those little, I guess, perk stories of having long hair. I mean, it's just, the guy walks in, and I'm there washing my hands again, and he sees a ponytail from behind, even though I'm not really built like a woman at all. But he sees the and he thinks, "Uh-oh, like, is this the wrong restroom?" So I come around, again. I mean, like I did the month before, or whatever it was. I come around, and, he says, "Is this the wrong one?" And he's on his way out the door again, and I say, "No, this is the right one." He says, "Oh, it is the right one." I'm like, seriously? He seriously thought he was in the wrong restroom, and they're telling him, "No, yes, this is the right one." Reconfirming myself, trying not to laugh at the guy again. It was, like he was concerned, like, really, this is the right one. Like, I don't know. It was, but again, I mean, I saved another guy there from potentially walking into what is really the ladies' room and having another scene. I'm thinking, next time this happens, maybe I'm just gonna, on purpose, do like this womanly scream to, just as a joke, just because it's a recurring theme here. I mean, it just might get to the point where I do that. So I don't know. A guy comes walking in the restroom, and he thinks like, "Oh no, this is the wrong one." I might just give one of those higher pitched screams like a woman would, which I'm not going to do right now and try to imitate here in the air. So with that in mind, that's gone far enough. Let's get back to the sports talk here as we close out the Tyler Werner Show. I mentioned earlier, Tiger Woods made his return to the golf world, and I guess many people are, as the World Cup is heating up, and kind of taking the day with sports fans while it's still on, and still up and running. Golf has been down the totem pole as compared to normal, and a lot of that has to do with Tiger Woods not being around, along with Keimer dominating the U.S. Open by several strokes, and just no Tiger Woods. Phil Mickelson not rising to the occasion really, and amongst other perennial golfers, Rory McIlroy breaking off his engagement last month or whatever, and the old saying, women weaken legs from Mickey, from the Rocky series. So far, I mean, I guess that hasn't helped McIlroy rise up, get back to the top form he was playing at once upon a time. So, really, I mean, you have Tiger Woods making his return to golf, and, for those Tiger Woods fans out there, he finally feels healthy. He says, it's been a good 2 years since I felt this way. In his pre-tournament press conference at the Quicken Loans National this morning at Congressional Country Club over in Maryland. So he's going to tee it up Thursday in his first competitive round since March 9th. He made his first public appearance in golf shoes since he walked gingerly off the golf course on March 9th with back pain that first presented itself in August 2012, and I guess was apparently exasperated by the old soft mattress story or whatever that I guess came out last year. So I guess Tiger Woods has pulled out of the cold baths and the anti-inflammatory meals and constant treatment, and is now back on the golf course. Whether or not that helps him get to winning another major for the first time in several years, I don't know. But nevertheless, maybe it'll make golf a little more interesting now for what it's worth. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show too, I wanted to get to this top 100 players in the NFL of 2014 that the NFL Network has been doing annually for the past several years. And they now, I guess, I think tonight or sometime in the next couple days, they're going to come out with number 30 to 21. So, they're getting down to the nitty gritty here of this list. But, right now, I mean, they got the bulk of it. They got up to number 31 here, and I was able to, fortunately find the current list, and they have the NFL the rank that they have them on the program when they roll these numbers out, and they have fan ranks for where the fans rank said player. So I definitely want to go through. This is pretty interesting. And I guess now as I look at it, they don't have every player ranked. I guess that some players on this list, fans did not have them in the top 100, whereas the NFL network rank did. So, but I mentioned a while ago, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago when this list started coming out, that Colin Kaepernick is number 81, and you have Tony Romo 71 on this. How do you have Tony Romo, who has won one playoff game in his entire career, and is looking at the bottom of the NFC East division this year? How do you have him ahead of Colin Kaepernick? I find that quite ironic.
I agree.
And he's only one spot behind Nick Foles for what it's worth. I don't know. So you have Tony Romo at 71. The fan ranks have him at 84. So I wouldn't have him in my top 100. I think if I really had to go through and try to really think about it and make my own lists like this, he wouldn't be on my top 100. But that's that. Nick Foles at number 70. Now see, here's the thing. Romo and Foles are ranked right next to each other. The fans have Romo at 84, and Nick Foles, the fans have him ranked all the way at number 32.
How's everyone doing? Let's make some noise. Come on.
That's pretty, that's a first. I mean, obviously that's a big gap there between where the network has them and the fans have them. And where the fans have Romo and Nick Foles, I mean, the fans have Romo at 84, which I still think I don't even think Romo should be on the 100 list. But they have Foles 32, so I mean, that's a big gap as far as where fans have him overall. Now I want to go through here and look at more quarterbacks. They have Joe Flacco at 58, the NFL Network. The fans, they don't have him ranked on the list at all. Apparently, there's a dash next to it in that section. I think Flacco's going to have a bounce back year to some extent. I wasn't surprised at the struggles the Ravens had, but Flacco had some unexpected trouble last year, so I guess I'm not too shocked about him being at 58 and the fans not ranking him at all. But I think he'll have somewhat of a bounce back year. And I'm going through this list further. Now Flacco's at 58 on this list, and I go through the list, and there's not another quarterback until number 34. And that number 34 is Phillip Rivers, and I think that's rather high as well. I mean, Rivers. Chargers coming off a decent season. Rivers coming off one of his better seasons, but 34, and you have. In my list right now, I'll probably do this as we get closer to the NFL regular season, or maybe like the beginning of preseason here on Kutztown Radio. I'll probably do I'll do like a top 10 quarterback list for the 2014 season, and if I had to do one right now, it would probably be something like maybe Rivers at 10, Foles at 9, or something like that. Now that's a little odd that the NFL Network, and this is voted on by players, I guess. So take it for what it's worth, I guess. Kaepernick's at 81. I don't know how that happens, but when you have Phillip Rivers all the way down at 34, and you have Nick Foles at 71. Not that now 71 is probably pretty fair, maybe generous for Nick Foles at 71. But then again, it's very generous how Romo is right behind him. But Rivers at 34, past these quarterbacks. That's pretty generous, and I don't know how that happens. But what I'm even more shocked about, Philip. Now, just so we go here, the fans rank has him at 33. Phillip Rivers, just one rank below the what the NFL Network has him at. I don't know how again how that comes in. I think the Chargers are heading in the right direction, but I don't ahead of Colin Kaepernick by that much, and ahead of Nick Foles by that much. I don't quite understand that. If he was somewhere in the 60s, maybe I could, but 34, 33 fans rank. I don't get that. But what shocks me even more is how the NFL Network rank number 31, which is right now where the list ends until they give the rest of the ranks. 31, Ben Roethlisberger, who I don't know how this happens, but he's ahead of basically everybody else I just talked about. The Steelers haven't done anything the past few years, really. Roethlisberger has shown, signs of age, definitely, and yeah, I don't know. The fans rank has him at 82, but right now, unless I don't know what happens, but right, if I had to make my top 10 quarterback list that I teased about making later on in the summer, Roethlisberger wouldn't be there. Well, once upon a time, yes, but in recent memory, no. I don't know how. I don't know how he's ranked that high. Fans rank has him, well below that at 82. So, and again, fans rank has Foles all the way down at 32, one spot ahead of Phillip Rivers. So, as far as fan rankings go. So, I don't know what people think of this list. It's interesting, obviously to follow, and it sparks a lot of debate, and probably continue to spark debate on this show as we move through towards the summer months here. As June is, next show will be July 1st. I guess already. So already heading in July. Next time on the Tyler Werner Show, and I think that'll be the last week of what they call Summer 1 semester, so there might be a week break, I think, after that edition of the Tyler Werner Show. But nevertheless, next week we'll come back, talk about what the Sixers do in the NBA draft coming up this weekend, and see what else goes on with the Philadelphia Flyers, as I believe that draft is this weekend as well. Continue to talk about Phillies and whatever goes on with the Philadelphia Eagles in the offseason here on the Tyler Werner Show. Thanks for tuning in as always, and we'll talk to you next week.